Welcome back to Chalkline Crime, your new home for lesser-known solved and unsolved true crime cases. Before we start this week's educational video, we ask if you are enjoying our content to please like and subscribe, as it greatly helps us grow this channel, and don't forget to jingle that bell icon to get notified anytime we drop a new video like this. Chalkline Crime drops new videos every week. Thank you for your support. Now, without further ado, Chalkline Crime presents Chilling Florida Cold Cases. In the heart of sunny Florida, a chilling mystery unfolded that still haunts the minds of true crime enthusiasts: the unsolved murder of Tymon Ross. In the small city of Deland, where palm trees sway and waves crash, a heinous crime occurred that would disrupt the tranquility of this paradise. Tymon Ross, a local resident known for his infectious laughter and love for music, met an untimely end December 8, 2009. A man who called 911 to report the shooting said a lone, masked gunman kicked in the door of the house, then robbed and shot Ross, according to the sheriff's office. Ross was found outside, dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Investigators said the house was notorious for drug activity and had been raided about a year earlier, when agents toppled several components of a large cocaine trafficking ring. And so begins the tale of the unsolved murder of Tymon Ross, a mystery that has baffled investigators for years. Before plunging into the murky depths of the crime, it's important to understand who Tymon Ross was. Born and raised in the Sunshine State of Florida, Tymon was a man known for his infectious laughter and love for life. Tymon had recently been charged with drug-related crimes. However, the charges against Ross were dropped about a month before his death, according to court records. "They had him all wrong," his aunt said. "He was not a drug dealer at all. He was just trying to make it out of the hood, that's all." She said Ross was a gambler, and he often traveled to Miami to make bets. He recorded a hip-hop album. Slow Down Boy, his personal life too, was fraught with tension. His tumultuous relationships and fiery temper were well known. These aspects of Tymon's life, his strengths and his flaws, paint a complex picture of a man living on the edge, making it difficult to discern who might have wanted to harm him. Tymon Ross was much more than a victim. He was a man whose life was cut tragically short. On a seemingly ordinary day, the tranquility of Florida was shattered by loud shots. In the serene backdrop of the Sunshine State, a chilling sight was unveiled to responding officers. Tymon Ross's lifeless body was found, disturbing the calm, casting a dark shadow over the sunshine. Tymon's demise was brutal, his life extinguished in the most violent of ways. The initial reaction from the community was one of shock and disbelief, a sense of dread permeating the air. The local police were equally shaken, their faces etched with grim determination as they cordoned off the area, their minds racing to make sense of the senseless. The shocking discovery sent ripples of fear and uncertainty through the community. As the reality of the crime sunk in, a complex and frustrating investigation was set in motion. The initial stages of the investigation were filled with potential leads that seemed promising, only to eventually wind up as dead ends. The first suspect was a neighbor with a shady history, known to have quarreled with Tymon on more than one occasion. Yet, despite circumstantial evidence, there was nothing concrete to tie him to the crime. Theories began to circulate. Was it a crime of passion, an act of revenge, or simply a random act of violence? But without solid evidence, these remained just that: theories. The lack of solid evidence proved to be the biggest hurdle in the investigation. Despite the best efforts of the forensic team, no fingerprints or DNA traces were found at the scene. The weapon used to commit the crime was never recovered. This lack of physical evidence made it impossible to definitively link any suspect to the crime. The investigators were further hampered by a lack of witnesses. Despite the crime occurring in a relatively populated area, nobody reported seeing anything suspicious on the night of the murder. The eerie silence from the neighborhood only deepened the mystery. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the investigators found themselves running in circles. Each lead was meticulously followed, each suspect thoroughly investigated, but they all led to the same frustrating conclusion: there was simply not enough evidence to make an arrest. The case of Tymon Ross was quickly turning into a cold case, a haunting reminder of the brutal crime that had taken place, and the killer that was still at large. Despite their best efforts, the investigators found themselves at a dead end. Years have passed since Tymon Ross's murder, yet the case remains as perplexing as ever. Time has a way of distilling memories, but in this instance, it has only served to thicken the fog of uncertainty. The case of Tymon Ross, once a vibrant page in the book of life, now a chilling unsolved mystery, continues to baffle law enforcement and capture the public's imagination. The current status of the case is, to put it mildly, a study in frustration. Despite the dogged determination of investigators, no new leads have surfaced. The trail, once hot, has grown cold. Yet, the case is not closed. The police remain vigilant, hoping that a fresh pair of eyes or a new forensic technique might finally bring resolution. The impact on the community has been profound. The town of Ross's upbringing, once a haven of tranquility, is now a place where whispers of fear and suspicion hang in the air. The unsolved murder has left an indelible scar, a painful reminder of a life cut short, and a killer who may still walk among them. Multiple theories persist, each one as haunting as the next. Some believe Ross was the victim of a random act of violence, a tragic case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others hold on to the notion of a more sinister plot, a meticulously planned crime, with roots that run deep into the underbelly of the town. And then there are those who still cling to hope, hoping against hope that Ross's killer will be brought to justice. The unsolved murder of Tymon Ross is more than just a cold case. It's a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our everyday lives, a testament to the enduring power of truth and justice, and a call to never forget the life that was lost. The story of Tymon Ross is far from over, and though the years may pass, the pursuit of closure continues. If you know anything that could help investigators solve this case, please contact Crime Stoppers at 888-277-TIPS. In the bustling city of Orlando, Florida, a chilling mystery unfolds that still haunts the hearts of many. Let's turn back the clock to 2006. Picture a thriving young woman named Jennifer Kessie. Jennifer, a finance manager, was known for her vibrant energy and radiant smile that could light up any room. She was cherished by her friends and colleagues, admired for her unwavering determination and dedication to her work. Beyond her professional life, Jennifer was a loving daughter, a loyal friend, and a doting girlfriend. Her life seemed to be a well-orchestrated symphony of normalcy. She would wake up, head to work, spend time with her loved ones, and then do it all again the next day. A routine many of us know all too well. But as we delve deeper into Jennifer's story, we realize that even in the most ordinary lives, extraordinary and unsettling events can occur. Little did anyone know, Jennifer's life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. January 23, 2006. A day that started like any other soon became the last known day in the life of Jennifer Kessie. This was a day filled with mundane routines, typical of a young woman making her way in the world. Jennifer woke up, ready for another day at her finance job. She put on her professional attire, grabbed her purse and keys, and headed out the door. Throughout the day, Jennifer kept in touch with her loved ones. She chatted with her boyfriend, discussed dinner plans with her friends, and even made a quick call to her parents. Her co-workers remarked on her cheerful demeanor. Nothing seemed amiss. As the day wrapped up, Jennifer was last seen leaving her office, waving goodbye to her colleagues, blissfully unaware of the eerie turn her life was about to take. As night fell, everything seemed normal, but by the next morning, Jennifer was nowhere to be found. As dawn broke on January 24th, an eerie silence hung over Jennifer's apartment. The day started just like any other, but as the hours ticked by, a sense of unease began to creep in. Jennifer, always punctual and reliable, had missed her morning meetings, a first in her professional career. Her phone remained silent, her messages unanswered. Her friends started to worry, their calls met with the cold, impersonal tone of voicemail. Concern grew as the day wore on, the usual buzz of her life replaced by an ominous quiet. Her family, too, felt the sting of worry. Their calls, texts, emails all met with silence. The day dragged on, the sun set, and the moon rose, its pale light casting long, foreboding shadows. The silence wasn't just silence anymore, it was a void where Jennifer should have been. Soon the authorities were alerted, and a chilling realization set in. Jennifer Kessie was missing. What followed was a frantic search, a city gripped by fear, and a case that would baffle investigators for years to come. In the wake of Jennifer's disappearance, the Orlando Police Department launched an extensive investigation. Initial efforts focused on scouring the area surrounding her condominium. Yet despite their best efforts, they found no evidence, no signs of a struggle, and no clues indicating where Jennifer might have gone. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. In the days following Jennifer's disappearance, search parties composed of police, family, friends, and concerned citizens spread out across the city. They combed through parks, alleyways, and abandoned buildings, hoping against hope to find some trace of Jennifer. But once again, their efforts proved fruitless. Each lead seemed to end in a dead end, and each hope was met with disappointment. But then, a glimmer of hope. Surveillance footage from a nearby apartment complex captured a person of interest. This individual was seen parking Jennifer's car and walking away. Yet despite the tantalizing clue, the footage was too grainy to make out any defining features. The person of interest remained just that, a shadowy figure who provided no answers. And then, Jennifer's car was discovered a little over a mile from her home, but it offered little in the way of clues. The vehicle was wiped clean, devoid of fingerprints or any other identifying marks. It was another dead end in a case that seemed to be full of them. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the momentum of the investigation began to wane. Despite the tireless efforts of the police and the never-ending hope of Jennifer's family, the trail began to grow cold. The person of interest in the surveillance footage was never identified, and no new leads were discovered. Despite extensive efforts, the trail went cold, leaving more questions than answers. The disappearance of Jennifer Kessie remains one of Orlando's most baffling, unsolved mysteries, a case that continues to haunt the city and confound investigators. Over a decade has passed since that fateful day in 2006, but the search for Jennifer Kessie is far from over. Tireless detectives, both professional and amateur, continue to pore over the details of the case, spinning theories and following leads, no matter how faint. From possible abductions to the potential involvement of a jilted lover, they've left no stone unturned. The impact of Jennifer's disappearance has sent ripples through the community, leaving an indelible mark on everyone she knew. Her family, despite the passage of time, remained steadfast in their pursuit of answers, their resilience a beacon of hope in the face of uncertainty. Jennifer's story, though cloaked in mystery, serves as a poignant reminder of the countless individuals who vanish without a trace, their stories left unfinished. As we continue to seek the truth, we keep Jennifer's story alive, hoping that one day justice will be served. As of today, Jennifer Kessie's disappearance remains one of Florida's most haunting, unsolved cases. 18 years have passed since that fateful day in 2006, but the search for answers continues, as relentless as ever. Despite the passage of time, the investigation remains active, with the Orlando Police Department periodically releasing new information and leads. In recent years, advancements in technology have given the investigators new tools to revisit old evidence. Forensic techniques unimaginable at the time of Jennifer's disappearance are now being applied, breathing new life into the investigation. While these developments offer a glimmer of hope, they also underscore the harsh reality that Jennifer's case remains unsolved. Yet, in the face of this daunting mystery, the enduring hope for a breakthrough keeps the search alive. Jennifer's friends, family, and countless supporters worldwide continue to rally for justice. Until that day comes, we remember Jennifer Kessie and we continue to seek answers. If you have any information that can help solve this case, please call Crime Line at 1-800-400-23-TIPS. What if someone you knew just vanished, only to be found murdered weeks later, and the killer was never found? Picture this. It's 2015 in sunny Florida, but for one family, it's the onset of a long, dark nightmare. April Mullins, a vibrant young woman with a zest for life, suddenly and inexplicably disappears. Days turn into weeks and hope wanes, only for the worst fears to be confirmed. April's lifeless body is found, marking the devastating end of her story. but the chilling beginning of an unsolved mystery. The local community is shocked, the law enforcement baffled, a seemingly senseless crime, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a family's unending grief. The case of April Mullins quickly becomes a chilling enigma, a puzzle that remains incomplete, a narrative that's yet to find its closure. And yet, nearly a decade later, the question remains: who killed April Mullins? It was a day like any other when April Mullins disappeared. As the sun rose over the Florida skyline on that fateful day in 2015, April, a vibrant young woman with an infectious smile, started her day as she always did. She was seen at the local diner, sharing a cup of coffee with her friends. They laughed, they chatted, they planned for a future that April would never see. The day continued in its ordinary rhythm, with April going about her routine. She was spotted at the grocery store in the afternoon, picking up ingredients for a dinner she would never make. She was seen laughing with the cashier, a testament to her friendly demeanor and her ability to connect with everyone she met. By the evening, April had returned home, the lights of her small house glowing warmly in the dusk. Her neighbors saw her watering her garden, a pastime she found therapeutic. She waved at passers-by, her laughter echoing in the quiet street. But as the night fell, the light in April's house went out, and so did the light in April's life. The laughter that once echoed in the streets was replaced by a silence so profound it was deafening. The vibrant young woman who was just seen hours ago was nowhere to be found. Her car sat untouched in the driveway, her purse still on the kitchen counter. The dinner she planned to make remained uncooked, the ingredients sitting untouched. The house, once filled with life and laughter, stood eerily quiet. The friends she had coffee with in the morning, the cashier she laughed with in the afternoon, the neighbors she waved at in the evening, all were left puzzled. There were no signs of a struggle, no signs of forced entry. It was as if April had simply vanished into thin air. The sudden, unexplained absence sent ripples through the small Florida community. The normalcy of the day was shattered by the mystery of the night. The vibrant, lively, and loving April Mullins was missing, leaving behind a void that was impossible to fill. And then, just like that, April was gone. Weeks passed with no sign of April, until a chilling discovery was made. The tranquility of the Florida wetlands was shattered when April Mullins' lifeless form was found. Nestled in the tall grass, a stone's throw from a quiet country road, the sight was as grim as it was unexpected. The condition of her body told a tragic tale. It was clear that she had been met with a violent end and had been subjected to the harsh elements for weeks. The details are too gruesome to recount, but it's enough to say that this was not the work of an amateur. Whoever was responsible knew what they were doing, and they did it with a cold, calculated precision that sent shivers down the spine of even the most seasoned investigators. The discovery shook the tight-knit community to its core. April was one of their own, a friendly face seen around town, always quick with a smile or a helping hand. Her loss was deeply felt, the shockwaves of her passing reverberating through every home, every heart. The local church held a vigil, their candles flickering in the night, casting long shadows that seemed to echo the darkness that had fallen over them. The local police force was swift in their response. The area was cordoned off, the crime scene meticulously combed for any trace of the perpetrator. Every lead was followed, every stone unturned in their relentless pursuit of justice. From the seasoned detectives to the fresh-faced rookies, each one understood the gravity of the situation. This was not just an attack on April, but on the community as a whole. They were determined to bring the responsible party to justice, to restore a sense of safety to their shaken town. The media descended on the small town, their cameras and questions a constant reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. Reporters spoke in hushed tones, their faces somber as they recounted the details. The story of April's tragic end was broadcast far and wide, her name becoming synonymous with the unsolved mystery that had gripped the nation. In the face of such a gruesome discovery, the hunt for her killer was on. With a murder to solve, the police began their investigation. It was a puzzle with pieces strewn across a vast and dark tableau. Initial leads were scant and the evidence was as elusive as a ghost. The police were left grasping at thin air. They searched April Mullins' personal life for any hints of conflict or danger, yet found nothing but an ordinary woman living an ordinary life. The first suspect was an ex-boyfriend with a history of domestic violence. However, He had a rock-solid alibi, being incarcerated at the time of the murder. The police then turned to April's current boyfriend, but he too was cleared, having been out of town during the time frame of the crime. The evidence itself was perplexing. There were no signs of forced entry at April's residence, suggesting the killer was someone she knew or trusted. Yet, a lack of defensive wounds on April's body seemed to contradict this theory. The murder weapon was never found, and despite extensive forensic analysis, no clear fingerprints or DNA were recovered from the scene. The public, as is often the case, had their own theories, fueled by fear and the need for closure. Some believed it was a random act of violence, a terrifying prospect that a killer was on the loose. Others suggested it was a meticulously planned crime by someone who knew April well. The police followed every lead, every hunch, and every theory, no matter how far-fetched. They interviewed friends, family, and acquaintances. They retraced April's steps in the days leading up to her murder, looking for any anomalies or suspicious activities. They even brought in a profiler, hoping to glean some insight into the mind of the killer. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the leads dried up. The case grew cold, and the police were left scratching their heads. Despite their tireless efforts and countless man-hours, the identity of April Mullins' killer remained a mystery. Despite their best efforts, the police were left with more questions than answers. As the investigation continued, it seemed that April's killer was always one step ahead. The difficulties in the investigation were as palpable as the Florida humidity in mid-August. The lack of solid evidence was the first roadblock. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack, but the haystack was the size of the entire Sunshine State. Every piece of potential evidence seemed to lead to a dead end, a mirage that disappeared just as it seemed within reach. The crime scene was meticulously clean, almost eerily so. It was as if the perpetrator knew exactly what they were doing, leaving behind no fingerprints, no DNA, no trace of their presence. It was a chilling testament to their calculated cruelty. Then there was the lack of a clear motive. April Mullins, a beloved member of her community, a woman known for her radiant smile and kind heart. Who could want to harm her? The question haunted everyone who knew her, and each potential lead seemed to dissolve into nothingness as quickly as it appeared. Rumors swirled, of course, whispers of a secret life, of unknown enemies, but every path investigators went down led them back to square one. It was a maze with no exit, a puzzle with missing pieces, and as the leads dwindled, so did the hope of finding April's killer. The initial flurry of activity, the urgent search for justice, slowly faded into a grim acceptance. The once bustling police station fell silent, the dedicated team of investigators reduced to a handful of weary souls, their faces etched with the weight of their failure. The case that had once dominated headlines, that had once sparked outrage and demands for justice, slowly faded from public consciousness. But for those who loved April, the pain remained, a constant reminder of the person they had lost and the justice they had been denied. And so, as the years passed, April's case went cold. Nearly a decade has passed since April's murder, and her killer still walks free. The once buzzing chatter of this case has quieted down to a murmur, leaving a chilling silence that echoes the unresolved status of this investigation. Despite the passage of time, the authorities have not given up. The case file of April Mullins remains open, a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice. In recent years, there have been no major breakthroughs. The leads have dried up, and the trail that once seemed promising has gone cold. But investigators soldier on, sifting through old evidence and revisiting past testimonies, hoping that a fresh perspective might shed new light on this baffling case. Citizens, too, have not forgotten. Candlelight vigils still light up the Florida nights, and her name is often whispered with a prayer for resolution. The community's spirit remains unbroken, their hope unwavering. And while the case remains unsolved, the memory of April Mullins and the mystery of her untimely death continues to haunt us all. To report any information you may have about this case to our cold case team, please call 352-343-9529 or email coldcase@lcso.org. You may also call Crime Line at 800-423-8477, TIPS, to report any crime tips anonymously. As always, from all of us here at Chalkline Crime, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Our next story begins where the Chalkline ends. Stay tuned for our next video covering the Thunder Cult of the East Bay of California. Till then, our friends, stay safe out there and go 49ers. Chalkline Crime, over and out.